The U.S. has just launched a devastating strike on Iran's main oil hub, hitting 90 military targets in a blistering assault. But as thousands more American troops are deployed to the region, a dangerous new phase is underway, one that threatens to spark a global food crisis, ignite chaos here at home, and force the world to choose sides in a widening conflict. Good evening. We begin tonight with the escalating conflict with Iran, now entering its third week, and the situation on the ground is growing more volatile by the hour. Both sides are digging in. Tehran is now threatening retaliation after the U.S. attacked a critical oil hub, striking 90 targets on an island that serves as Iran's main oil export terminal. Israel is congratulating the U.S. on the strikes. Meanwhile, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad once again came under fire as a missile struck a helipad. President Trump is now saying that Iran is, quote, totally defeated and wants a deal, but not one that he would accept. And the U.S. is now sending more troops to the Middle East, including more than 2,000 Marines. Tonight, the U.S. is escalating its offensive, and Iran is defiant, repeating the warning that any strike on its energy infrastructure would be met with attacks on American-linked energy interests. Overnight, the U.S. struck Iran's Karach Island, the country's main hub for oil production. President Trump posting video of projectiles hitting the airport and other sites. CENTCOM says the U.S. struck 90 Iranian military targets on the island. Hours later, in an apparent act of retaliation, a drone struck the UAE's main oil hub of Fujairah, forcing the emirate to suspend some of its oil operations. And tonight, with the war now in its third week, President Trump says Iran wants a deal, but a deal that he would not accept. 5,000 U.S. military personnel, including 2,200 Marines, are headed to the region, joining the more than 50,000 American troops already there. This as the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad came under attack yet again, with smoke seen billowing from the compound early Saturday. In Doha, there is growing unease about the near-constant Iranian attacks that have shaken residents and disrupted livelihoods. Iran's retaliation is crippling the region's airspace and effectively closing the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil flows. The closure is taking its toll on the Gulf states and the rest of the world. Now, France and Italy are reportedly in talks with Iran to reopen the strait. Earlier this week, CENTCOM announced that they had destroyed more than a dozen Iranian ships that could be used to lay mines, but the threat still remains. One expert telling us it's quite possible that Iran will continue mining the straits, and they can do so within a matter of hours. They have hundreds of thousands of small boats that all have the capability to do that. And in a post today online, President Trump called on China, France, the UK, and other countries to send ships to the region to help keep the strait open. Iran's foreign minister, meanwhile, says the strait is open to all vessels except those with links to the U.S. and its allies. And there's more for us tonight from the region. Israel is now reportedly planning to expand its ground operation in Lebanon as it targets Iran's proxy Hezbollah. This amid an escalating air campaign that has already displaced nearly 1 million people and killed more than 800, including at least 106 children, according to the Lebanese health ministry. With tonight, Israel is intensifying its air campaign in Lebanon against Iran's proxy Hezbollah. The IDF said it struck Hezbollah command centers and has taken out 150 of them in the past 2 weeks. Today, the death toll in Lebanon rose again, with the Lebanese government saying more than 800 people have been killed, including more than 100 children, since the U.S. and Israel launched the war with Iran. The Israeli military is issuing warnings to evacuate because of the fighting. Sammy Baugh, an American citizen living in Beirut who we've been following, decided to flee. He told us jets and different drones launched a few missiles, about 4 or 5 missiles at this building. It's just way too dangerous. Aid agencies say nearly 1 million people, roughly a fifth of Lebanon's population, are now displaced because of the fighting in southern Lebanon. An Israeli airstrike Friday killed 12 health workers at a medical center, according to Lebanese officials. And today, an Israeli strike in the city of Sidon. In the aftermath, smoke was seen billowing out of a residential building. 4 members of one family were killed in the attack, according to Lebanese officials. So far, the IDF is not commenting on either of those strikes overnight. Iran is retaliating. Israel's air defenses over Tel Aviv were seen intercepting missiles. One witness described it: near interceptions overhead. Clearly, something is coming into Tel Aviv. I was just out on a run and had to take cover. Every few hours, we hear sirens and then booms overhead. Hezbollah rockets are also causing damage in the north of Israel. And tonight, the chief of the Israeli Defense Forces says another division, which is made up of between 10 and 20,000 troops, will be deployed up to Israel's northern border. Israel is actively considering a ground incursion against Hezbollah in Lebanon. And that brings us to the home front, because this war is now threatening the global economy, upending energy markets, supply chains, and now raising fears of a possible food crisis. President Trump is asking other countries to send warships to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump is scrambling to ease oil prices as Americans feel the pain at the pump. The national average for gas is now $3.67, up 73 cents since the war began. Diesel is nearing $5 a gallon, driving up transportation costs, with UPS and FedEx announcing new shipping surcharges. At the center of the crisis is the Strait of Hormuz, where roughly 1/5 of the world's oil flows, now at a virtual standstill from Iran's attacks on ships. Trump is now calling on other countries to send warships to help reopen the strait, posting that many countries will do so, and hopefully China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK, and others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area. The impact is already rippling through the economy. One expert telling us we're seeing everything from freight shipping costs to transportation costs, prices at the gas pumps, to what you will see at the grocery store. Everything that gets moved is going to be affected by these price hikes. Food prices are now under pressure, too, from those higher transportation costs. And because 1/3 of the world's fertilizer ingredients move through the Strait of Hormuz, the administration says they're ready to help farmers. A White House official stating the president is very aware of these challenges and these issues. We are very close to having an announcement on some solution. But the Trump administration claims they expected Iran would target the strait, raising questions from experts about why they weren't more prepared this week. The administration, acknowledging the U.S. Navy is not yet ready to escort oil tankers through the strait, driving the volatility. And tonight, there is new controversy over President Trump's Political Action Committee using the war on Iran to raise money. A new fundraising email uses an image from the dignified transfer of the first 6 U.S. service members killed in this war and offers donors access to private national security briefings. Now to an intensifying storm bringing snow across the upper Midwest, followed by severe weather for much of the eastern half of the country. Many areas expecting strong winds, already creating scenes like this on the Lake Michigan shore. More than 1,300 flights have been canceled this weekend due to the weather. 100 million Americans are under wind alerts tonight. We have about 15 million more under snow alerts. And where those two areas meet, the blizzard concerns are real. That blizzard warning has actually been extended east now into the upper peninsula of Michigan. This storm system intensifies as it tracks toward the Great Lakes, which means we start measuring snow in feet rather than inches east of the Twin Cities. That intensification also ramps up the severe weather threat. A strong line of storms is developing from Chicago down through Louisiana, moving into Sunday night. Then the mid-Atlantic on Monday. Destructive wind, tornadoes, hail, and heavy rain are possible for so much of the eastern half of the country. And it's also worth mentioning the heat in the West, with many major cities that could see all-time March records as we move past Oscar Sunday. We have new details tonight about the attack on a synagogue in Michigan. Temple Israel held Shabbat service on Friday evening, one day after the truck ramming attack. The synagogue had been taking steps for a possible threat, training staff and increasing security. Tonight, the nation's largest Reform synagogue says security training helped stop a man from carrying out a violent truck ramming attack. One official stating, "This was something we were prepared for, and unfortunately, Ely is a reality." I think if it weren't for the training, I wouldn't necessarily know what to do. Temple Israel Synagogue outside Detroit had been holding regular active shooter trainings amid heightened threats, one just 6 weeks earlier. Officials are now urgently investigating this man, seen here 2 days before the attack, buying thousands of dollars of fireworks. Investigators say the suspect, Ayman Mohammed Ghazali, waited in the parking lot for 2 hours, then plowed his truck through the synagogue's doors and down the hall, hitting a security guard. His car then got stuck in the hallway. The suspect was killed by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Investigators are still searching for a motive, but officials say 4 of the suspect's family members were killed in an Israeli airstrike in Lebanon last week. The suspect, a U.S. citizen since 2016, entered the U.S. in 2011 on an immigrant visa as the spouse of a citizen. Local leaders are pleading for calm. We must lower the rhetoric in the state and in this country, one official said, especially at this moment where we have seen such a rise in anti-Semitism and more attacks on the Jewish community. Even before this attack, some law enforcement officials around the country were ramping up security, specifically at sensitive locations, citing the heightened threat environment because of the ongoing war in the Middle East. Overseas now to an explosion damaging a Jewish school in Amsterdam, the city's mayor calling it, quote, a deliberate attack against the Jewish community. It's the second anti-Semitic attack in 2 days. No one was hurt in the explosion at the school or from an earlier attack on a synagogue in Rotterdam. Meantime, back here in the U.S., there is heightened security at the Oscars, even tighter than previous shows. Security teams and law enforcement are on high alert around the city. This is the first high-profile large event since the war began with Iran. Tonight, amid the fighting in Iran, police departments nationwide are increasing their presence around high-profile events. Security ahead of tomorrow's Academy Awards is tighter than at any previous Oscars show. One organizer telling us, every year we monitor what's going on in the world. We have the support of the FBI and the LAPD, and it's a close collaboration. The LAPD is said to have teams seen and unseen all around the area. Police are running this operation out of a high-tech command center. We're told they have dogs, SWAT team members, anti-drone technology, and even sharpshooters, as they do every year. While there are no known credible threats against the ceremony, LAPD sources tell ABC News that police and private security are working together at an unprecedented level. In a statement, the LAPD says attendees are being told to remain aware of their surroundings. And with barricades and fencing up here along Hollywood Boulevard, they put up this fencing to stop traffic and people from going in. The LAPD is telling us tonight that there is no intelligence that the Oscars are a target. Everyone is hoping for a safe weekend there. When we come back, new changes for Southwest Airlines. The airline is set to end flights to and from 2 major airports, and a close call for 2 workers repairing a mountain road. Next, Southwest Airlines announcing it will end service out of O'Hare in Chicago and Dulles in Washington, D.C., effective June 4th as part of an effort to, quote, refine its network. They will continue to serve the cities with flights out of Midway and Reagan.